Okay, here is a fun dating story for you. Bear with me, it gets really good towards the end. So this happened a couple of years ago. The receptionist at one of my clients talked, or more like begged me into meeting her best friend who just moved to LA from Phoenix. She swore that we were the perfect match. I checked out her profile, chatted back and forth for a few days, then talked to the mystery girl once on the phone, and we decided to meet for dinner and drinks at a local bar and grill after her shift. She was a nurse. So, we meet. She's an adorable, petite blonde with glasses and freckles. Totally my type. I could tell she was a bit nervous. We sit down and order drinks. She downs her apple martini in less than 5 minutes, orders another one, and apologizes, stating that she wants to loosen up a bit because she is nervous, since her friend talked me up so much, which is odd since I don't even know her friend that well at all. Fast forward a bit, she ended up having 2 martinis before the appetizers came, 2 more in between appetizers, and 3 more during dinner, and 1 more right before the check came. So for a girl who weighed about 110 pounds and was 5'3", 7 martinis was quite a lot. Surprisingly, the conversation did quite well. The trouble came as we were about to leave, and she decided to use the restroom before we hit the road. She fell twice on the way, and once on the way back, since she was clearly hammered. I offered to drive her home and give her some cash for a cab in the morning to pick her car up. She agreed, but declined the cash. Mind you, it's nearing midnight, and I have to get up at 5:30 for work. As we are driving toward her apartment, it becomes apparent that, combined with her drunken state, and the fact she has lived in the valley for less than 2 weeks, she forgot her address, and how to get herself home. We drive around North Hollywood and Studio City for an hour trying to remember her street or any local landmarks. This fails, and I'm getting tired and frustrated. I offered to let her stay at my place. Nothing weird. She can crash on my bed and I'll take the couch. She's okay with this. On my way back to my place, she attempts to throw up out of the car window, but she doesn't realize the window was never open in the first place. Vomit everywhere. Now she's crying and apologizing like crazy. I get her to my apartment, carry her up the 3 flights of stairs, and toss her on my bed. She's out cold. I go downstairs and spend another 40 minutes cleaning out my car and finally get to sleep on my couch around 2 a.m. Around 4:30 a.m., I'm awoke by a shrill scream coming from my bedroom. I run in wearing just my boxers, flip the light on. The girl paused for a second, looks at me, and screams more. She backs into a corner and throws my nightstand lamp at me while yelling, "Who the f*** are you?" It takes a minute for me to calm her down and explain the situation and remind her of our night. It eventually all comes back to her. She starts crying and apologizing. After I calm her down some more, I gave her a ride home. During our ride home, the awkward silence is only broken by her apologizing, while sobbing, telling me how to get to her place, and then asking if we hooked up. I told her we did not, and I'm not the creepy type to take advantage of girls in her condition. She replied with something along the lines of, "Oh, okay, I'm not typically a lush, and I'm definitely not a slut. I was just super nervous and didn't know my limit last night. You seem great, and I hope we can see each other again." I ended up saying, "Sure." Just to avoid any more awkwardness, I gave her an in-car hug and said goodnight. The next day, while slothing around work in a meeting, she called. It went to voicemail. Immediately, she called again, twice. Finally, she left a voicemail. The voicemail went something like this. "So, I was thinking about what I asked you on our way home last night in regards to us hooking up. And I'm kinda curious as to why you didn't try anything with me. Is it because you're too good for me? Whatever, I'm not a slut. And don't sleep around, but you missed a shot at some awesome sex last night. So, whatever." Click. And half an hour later, while I'm still in the meeting, she calls and leaves another voicemail, this time crying. "I'm sorry about what I said earlier. I'm just having trouble adjusting to a new place. I'm homesick. You seem real great, Please call me back and please don't ignore me. Please, I'm sorry. Needless to say, I didn't call her back. Her friend, the receptionist, apologized profusely the next time I saw her. We didn't talk much about it after that. About 4 years ago, reeling from a nasty breakup, I decided to give dating apps a try. A couple of weeks after signing up, I received a message from a guy named Jonathan. He was cute and just my type, and we set up a date. We get along really well in person and ended up going on a couple more dates. It seemed like everything was going well. Justin lived a bit far, and it was my turn to drive to him for a date. We headed over to a local bar and had a great time playing air hockey and some other activities. Then we decided to head back to his place to watch a movie. But first we decided to make a stop at 7-Eleven for some munchies. We gathered up a couple of sodas and some candy and took them up the register. $6.66, said the cashier, as I pulled out my wallet to pay. Gasped loudly. "We can't possibly leave the total at $6.66, he exclaimed. "That's the mark of the devil." I just laughed, and he got a very serious look on his face. "If we leave the total like that, we're gonna get in a car accident on the way home and die." At this point, I felt he was being ridiculous. "Fine, grab something else if it bothers you that much." He threw a York peppermint patty on the counter and was satisfied when the total became $7.42 and we headed back to his place. After picking out a movie, we grabbed our bag of snacks and plopped down on his bed. I proceeded to take off my shoes and get comfortable. Gasped again. "Oh my God," he said. "Are those the socks with separate toes? Those really freak me out." I looked down at my striped toe sock. How could anyone be freaked out by something so goofy? "Seriously," he said. "I can't handle those socks. They really bother me." I just looked at him and leaned back on the bed. I was already over it. Little did I know, Jonathan was just getting started. "Oh my God," he exclaimed. I could see that a light has just gone off inside his head. "I get it now. You're a witch. It all makes sense." "Come again?" I asked. "It all makes sense. Your black cat, your love of bats, your stripy witch socks, and you weren't even bothered by the $6.66. Are you a witch?" "Get real," I said. "I'm not a fucking witch." But I could see the guy was serious. What an idiot. "Well, I think you're a witch," he said. "And can you please take off your socks? They're really bothering me." "I'm not taking off my socks," I replied. "You're being silly." "I can't help it. Those socks really freak me out. I'll do anything for you to take them off. I will pay you to take them off. Any amount." "You'll pay me?" I asked. "Yes," came his reply. "Fine. Pay me $6.66. He glared at me as I packed up my stuff and left. And that was the last I ever saw of Jonathan. I matched with a seemingly charming man named James. We hit it off instantly, sharing common interests and a sense of humor through our messages. After several days of chatting, we decided to meet in person for a date. James suggested we go hiking in a nearby forest, since we both loved outdoor activities. I thought it was a great idea and agreed to meet him at the trailhead early in the morning. As the day of the date arrived, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. I arrived at the trailhead and spotted James waiting for me. He looked friendly and attractive, just like his pictures. We exchanged greetings and set off on the hike. The first part of the hike went smoothly. We chatted and laughed and we explored the beautiful nature, but as we ventured deeper into the forest, something felt off to me. His demeanor seemed to shift slightly, and he grew more intense in his conversation. As we reached a more secluded area of the trail, he suddenly stopped and turned to me, his smile disappearing. He started asking intrusive questions about my personal life, things that made me uncomfortable. I tried to steer the conversation away from those topics, but he persisted, almost as if he was prying for sensitive information. Feeling uneasy, I decided to cut the hike short and suggested we head back to the trailhead. But James became agitated and refused to turn back. Instead, he insisted we continue to a different, more isolated part of the forest. Alarmed by his behavior, I firmly told him that I want to go back and that I didn't feel safe continuing the hike. His demeanor changed again, this time becoming angry and aggressive. He started yelling at me, making me fear for my safety. In a moment of quick thinking, I faked a phone call, pretending it was my brother checking up on me. I spoke loudly, mentioning my brother coming to pick me up soon. Hearing this, James seemed alarmed and quickly changed his attitude, acting as though nothing happened. Relieved that my ploy seemed to work, I continued to pretend to talk to my brother while slowly making my way back to the trailhead. I maintained a sense of urgency in my voice, and James didn't object to me leaving anymore. Once I reached the trailhead, I thanked him for the date and quickly got in my car. As soon as I drove away, I reported the incident to the authorities and notified the Tinder app about my experience. This frightening encounter with a seemingly normal and charming person taught me an important lesson about online dating safety. I became more cautious about meeting strangers and always made sure to let a friend or a family member know the details of my dates. Going on a hike on a first date doesn't sound like a smart idea to me personally.